Hello everyone, welcome to Saurabh's classes, myself Nirupam. So today I'll be sharing with you my experiences of PhD student at IGIDR. So for all of you, I have pursued my PhD. So I did my PhD in development studies from IGIDR during the period 2010 to 2015. So prior to that, I also did my master's program, pursued my master's program from IGIDR during the period 2005 to 2007. So between 2005, after I passed out of my master's program at IGIDR, I worked with HDFC Limited in Bombay for 2.5 years before I decided to join back my institute for a PhD program. Now, so there are two ways by which you can join the PhD program at IGIDR. There is a way as well if you have been a master student, or if you have been an MPhil student at IGIDR, or through an entrance test which is also conducted along with the master's entrance test for IGIDR. Now, to qualify as a PhD student, to qualify as a student who can write his doctoral thesis, there are certain requirements that needs to be fulfilled. So currently, if you are a PhD student, whether you have pursued a master's program for IGIDR, or whether you have pursued, or whether you are writing the admission test for the PhD program at IGIDR, you need to have a minimum CGPA. That means at the end of your coursework, you need to have a minimum CGPA of 3 if you are to be considered for the registration as a PhD candidate. So this is something you need to keep very much in mind, that you need to maintain a minimum CGPA of 3 on a grade scale of 4. So IGIDR typically follows a US school-based evaluation system, which is typical of the evaluation system in the economic schools in US. So you need to have a minimum CGPA of 3 on a grade scale of 4 to qualify as a PhD candidate in IGIDR. Either if you are a master student, either if you have been a master student at IGIDR, or if you are entering directly as a PhD student at IGIDR. Now, for a PhD student currently at IGIDR, you need to pursue 12 core courses. 12 courses. Out of these 12 courses, 4 courses are optional, and 4 courses are compulsory courses, and 8 courses are optional courses. So for any PhD student, the 4 compulsory courses, let's say there are 4 compulsory courses which you need to complete, okay, in the first semester, and then in the second semester you need to complete. You need to complete 4 courses, and also in the third semester you need to complete 4 courses. So you need to in the first semester, all the courses which you will be pursuing are the compulsory courses. Then in the next 2 semesters, you will be pursuing the optional courses. So this is the structure that is being followed at IGIDR. Now, at the end of the third semester, subject to a minimum CGPA of 3 on a grade scale of 4, you will then be considered as a PhD candidate. So to qualify to be registered as a PhD candidate, first you need to work on a proposal. So for working on a proposal, which also happened with me when I joined as a PhD student after my work stint at HDFC, so you need to discuss with the potential supervisor. So this is something which you need to do. Depending on your area of interest, the topic of interest, you need to discuss with the supervisors who also have similar areas of interest or topics of interest, or who also have worked on those topical areas of interest in the past, or who are working currently or planning to work in the future. So this is you have to take the initiative. You need to discuss with the potential supervisors after you have fulfilled the requirements, or you can also start it in the second semester or in the third semester while you are pursuing your coursework. Now, once you have zeroed in the potential supervisor you would like to work with, you need to now also start working on the research course question which you would like to pursue. So this is something which will be coming out as you discuss with the potential supervisor or the supervisor whom you would like to work with. So this interaction, keep in mind, is something though it is informal, so there is no such records you need to maintain per se. The interactions which you are having with your potential supervisor, who will be your PhD guide or who will be a PhD supervisor, But this is nonetheless important. So you need to be very much regular in your interaction with the supervisor, and don't try to avoid that or don't be lax on that. This is something very important. So you should not be lax on that. You need to interact, take the feedback, discuss with him or her what you're studying in a topical area of interest, and then take his or her suggestions that how the research question needs to be framed. So this is how you develop the pathway to the research question for your PhD. Just keep this thing in mind, and these discussions help you very much how you are framing your PhD work. And you have got, once you completed your coursework by the end of the third semester, you have got exactly 6 months, that is from January to June following the third semester. So January to June, these 6 months you need to build up your proposal for your PhD. And this proposal development is something which is very much effortful job. So you cannot neglect or you cannot be lax on that effort. And nonetheless, this will be a painstaking work, because it may happen. I'm not trying to discourage you, but I'm trying to give you a realistic picture. It might happen that you are very much passionate about a particular topic. This is first thing. You are very much, while you're working on, while you're pursuing coursework or reading different journal papers or even op-eds, newspapers, you become very much passionate about a particular work. Chances are very high. So chances are very high that you may not find a supervisor who are actually working or who have got similar interest areas as you. Don't be disheartened. This happens with a lot of us. It has also happened with me. It has also happened with my other colleagues or batchmates. First thing, while pursuing a PhD topic or any PhD thesis work, is that you have to now become a practical person. You have to be pragmatic, you have to be practical, and that's the first stepping stone while pursuing a PhD work. You have to be very much realistic. There is no scope for daydreaming, because each and every day that you put in your PhD work is very important. So you make sure that the effort which you're putting does not go waste. So you have to frame your work, you have to frame your thesis, interest or the research interest or the question of interest in such a way which are also in alignment with your interest, and that in alignment with that of a potential supervisor at IGIDR. Because keep this thing in mind, that your supervisor, the main supervisor, needs to be from IGIDR. So this is a compulsory requirement as far as the formation of the PhD thesis committee for any student is concerned. So keep this thing in mind, and the interactions are very important. Do listen to what your supervisor says and try to work on that and make the changes and the innovations in your question and PhD work accordingly. Remember this thing in mind wherever, whether it is IGIDR or any other place. The difference between a master's program and a PhD program is this: you have now got a one-to-one interaction with the supervisor. It's not a general class student-teacher interaction in a class, but it's a one-to-one interaction. It's a very much crucial that you need to be very careful. Now, as far as the PhD work is concerned, if masters is step number 1 in the staircase, you need to understand that you have to do even more reading, more study, in fact in-depth study on a particular topic. So in masters you might be studying a variety of topics or a variety of issues, but in PhD, as this is your work, your topical interest, so you need to do more deeper study in your area of interest, and you cannot neglect on that. So you have to be very much thorough, you have to be very much knowledgeable. So it should be like that, that you, as you work on a PhD, you become an expert in your area, and you have a good command and authority on your research area of interest, and that's why you build your ESP and your uniqueness as a PhD student. So PhD student is something which is a stepping stone for your academic career, most mainly academic career or any specialist career in future. So this is a working process and this is a developmental phase. Take that thing, keep that thing in mind, and here time is very crucial. So in IGIDR, typically you are expected to turn in your PhD thesis by the end of 4-year term. So if you are entering directly as a PhD student, then you are usually given a 4-year term plus 1-year extension. Whereas if you are entering as a student who has pursued masters, you are usually given a 3-year term plus 1-year term as an extension. So no, beyond that, if you like to pursue, you will have to do it without stipend. So keep this thing in mind. because stipend does matter when you're pursuing your PhD, financial assistance does matter. So try to be very much thorough and plan your work in such a way, choose the topic or the research question in such a way that you are able to finish your work within a given time. This is very important because sometimes it happens, there are one or two cases where the work has extended much beyond the stipulated time, and then you have to do without the financial assistance or the stipend that is being provided by the institute. And it can be very challenging if you have to go without one. Now coming to this, as I say that you have to do much more deeper study, you need to work and understand the difference between a PhD work and a master's work. 6 months is very important, so that time you have to be very thorough, but the difference which is between a PhD and a master's work is this, master's course is this. In master's course you have a definite course work or a course outline, so you have a definite syllabus. In case of PhD there is nothing called syllabus. Keep this thing in mind. So it's an entirely open area for you, and there is no limit, and there is no limit, upper limit or lower limit. In syllabus you follow a particular structure in master's program. In PhD there is no such structure or a syllabus that you follow. So you have to be very much thorough, and you are your own syllabus setter in your PhD work. Okay. Now as I said that there can be no better place than IGIDR. There can be no better place, as I said in my earlier videos on masters, there can be no better place than IGIDR to pursue research work because of the facilities and the infrastructure which is there. It is unique in its own in this country as far as economics as a subject is concerned. The library facility which you have got in terms of the books which you have, the access to the range of the journals, access to the computing facilities, access to the other infrastructure which you require to pursue PhD work or any research work, the databases that you require, or also the financial assistance which you require to conduct your field survey or to conduct the primary survey work, there is no comparison with IGIDR. This I can tell, I can safely bet on that because this is in my experience. Now having said that, so what happens is that over the 6-month period, that is the January to June period, if you are entering directly as a PhD student, so there are 2 periods, 6-month period which are being considered for a proposal work. One is from January to June and the other is from August to December. So once if you are in the January to June cycle, then you are expected to give your proposal, which is an oral comprehensive evaluation seminar in the month of July. And if you are in the August to December cycle, then you are expected to give your oral comprehensive evaluation seminar in the month of January. So there are 2 time cycles. One is the January to June cycle, and one is the August to December cycle. So usually the January to June cycle is it's a cycle which is longer by a month compared to the August to December cycle. Okay. Now, depending on your confidence, depending when you have completed your course structure, at what point of time you are entering the institute as a PhD cycle, you will be put either in the January to June cycle or in the August to December cycle. So for me, it was from January to June cycle. So you are expected to turn in your thesis proposal by end of June. Okay, and then following your submission of proposal in discussion with the supervisors as well as the external examiner, your date for oral comprehensive evaluation seminar will be fixed either in the month of July if you are in the January to June cycle, or in the month of January if you are in the August to December cycle. Fine. Now usually what happens is that when you are working on a proposal seminar, so there are a lot of iterations that will keep on going on. So it is not just that you turn on only just one copy of your proposal work. So in fact it happens with all of us, it has happened with all of us, that you need to turn on at least 4 to 5 drafts of your proposal before it is submitted finally for consideration. So this iteration work is something which you need to be very much aware of, and which I would like to encourage all of you, if you are pursuing a PhD at IGIDR, to inculcate the habit of writing what you read. Any textbook chapter, any journal paper, any reading that you are going through for your topical area of interest or for your research question, once you have finished reading or going through that article, do practice writing what you have picked up. because this is very important in formulating your research question and in finding the research gaps in your area of interest. You need to develop that habit. If you don't develop that habit, it will become really difficult as to what you need to answer and what research questions you are interested in. In fact, when you interact with the supervisor at IGIDR, this is something they will encourage doing right at the outset. Okay. Secondly, thirdly, what is happening is this, that as I say, that IGIDR has got a very much well-developed hostel facility. So when you are pursuing a coursework as a PhD student at IGIDR, it is very compulsory that you need to stay in the campus. This is very much compulsory. And once your proposal has been cleared, then you get registered as a PhD candidate, and at least for first 1 or 2 years, you need to be a full-time PhD candidate. So it is not that once you have cleared your PhD proposal, you can then stop going regularly or attending regularly the institute. You have to be there on a regular basis. In fact, you have to put in your attendance on a daily basis at IGIDR when you are pursuing PhD thesis work. So at least for the first 1 or 2 years, you need to be a regular student. Then, subject to your discussion with your supervisor as well as the authority, then you can decide to change your permanent status into a part-time status or a full-time status into a part-time status. Now, the advantage which you have got being at IGIDR is the peer group which you have got. Given my experience, I can tell you that IGIDR gives you that advantage. As I say, that you have got a very small campus, compact campus, as well as you have got only students for economics discipline. So the peer group effect is very strong as far as your PhD work is concerned. As far as I am concerned, I have benefited a lot from my peer group interaction. In fact, I can tell you that it was such a regular phenomenon that still, I remember those days, and in fact, I think the PhD days at IGIDR were my best days as till now. So we used to have a regular interaction where 4 or 5 of us used to sit down and discuss all our topics. It's not that we used to work on the same topic, but we used to share our experiences and we used to contribute to also through our feedback to others' PhD work. This is something which I can tell. Let's say you are pursuing a particular question, so you might not be getting an idea, but your junior or even your junior or your peer group or your senior, while interacting with them, you get an idea. So that gives you a good feedback effect, or that acts as a very nice feedback. But in fact, when you're also working on your proposal, it might happen that your supervisors themselves might be encouraging you to give mock presentations or having some such mock seminars in front of your peer group, who are basically your hostel mates or your batchmates who are staying in the hostel. So this is something which is very important, and it does impact a lot about the quality of your work which you have. In fact, they are the first line of defense for you when you are working. So they will be giving you the suggestions, and do take them. This is my experience with the way I have learned, that do take the suggestions very, very much in a sporting way, but do take them also at the same point of time seriously, because they help you a lot. So there is no such leg pulling. It might seem leg pulling, but it is not. It does really, really help. And also, as you interact with your, there is also effect. There is also an economies of scale effect. So as you interact with each other, so there is also an information that gets built up. Whether in terms of the conferences which you can attend, the scholarships which you can access if you would like to pursue some postdoctoral fellowship after completion of PhD work, or any assistance which you can get if you need to attend conferences from abroad. It does help in a big way. This I can tell you. One more thing which I can tell you about the PhD, while pursuing PhD at IGIDR, as I say, that IGIDR has got one of the best hostel facilities. So, in fact, when you are pursuing PhD, you will be glad to know that you will be given a flat. And you have got all the facilities like a typical flat which you have got. You have got access. If you would like to cook food for yourself, you can do it. If you can afford the time. And you have got all the modern kitchen facilities. The other facilities are really good. So you can have your own kitchen. You can stock your items in a trays. You can cook them. You can do as you like. So you are on your own, but at the same time, so you are given that freedom. So it's not that you follow a tight schedule. So you have to attend classes regularly when you are writing a thesis. All you need to do is that you need to interact with your supervisor regularly, and you will find that to keep a tab on your progress of work, every 6 months is a progress seminar. So every year is a progress seminar, and every 6 months you need to submit your progress report, which needs to be signed by your supervisor, and then it needs to be submitted to the office, that is the student's office. So the progress seminars are something which are being attended. So again a date is being notified. It is same cycle is being followed, either the July cycle or the January cycle, and those seminars are being attended by the students as well as the faculty member, where you are being given some sort of a formal feedback mechanism works out. Feedback is being provided on your research work, and then you get an idea that where your work is progressing, and then you can also incorporate those feedback in discussion with the supervisor. This is how the things work. So, as I say that in IGIDR it's a 3-year or a 4-year course, 3-year or a 4-year work which you need to do for the thesis work, which you need to which you get to complete the thesis work. So what happens is this: after going through this iterative process of proposal as well as discussion with the supervisors, progress seminars, then what comes is that you need to now draft a report. So at IGIDR, what is necessary is that you need to have 3 core chapters. So these 3 core chapters might be an essay based, that means you might be addressing 3 different topics, or you might be working on the same topic, but at least 3 core chapters needs to come out of that, of your research work, apart from an introductory as well as a conclusion chapter. Then after, once you have drafted based on the structure which is discussed in details in the IGIDR manual, PhD students manual, so then it is now being displayed in the library. So now you are supposed to give a synopsis seminar where you discuss in brief about your PhD work, what you've done in for all the 4 or 5 year time period. Now once your PhD work has been approved at the synopsis seminar by the synopsis examination committee, which is an internal committee that comprises supervisor as well as other senior faculty members from the institute, then this thesis is now being sent outside for examination. So when it is being sent outside for examination, so there are 2 examiners, as you know, one from outside and one from inside the country on the area of which you work. Then you receive a feedback. So usually the feedback period is something like a 6 months to 9 months on an average. It might be more, it might be less. Usually it is around this time period. Then you get the observations from your examiners, both the examiners. The following which there can be 3 or 4 outcomes. So there can either be no revision, so it is being passed as you have submitted, or there can be minor revision or major revisions. Following which, if there are certain revisions, you need to incorporate in discussion with the supervisor in your thesis work. And then you need to submit it again back to the office. So once it gets a go ahead, or it gets a clearance from external supervisor, then you are asked to appear for your defense seminar where you defend your final version of your thesis. So once again your external examiner now it comes and attends your thesis, and after it is being passed, then you are being awarded your PhD degree. So usually it takes a period of something like, if the day you start with your PhD work, that is writing a thesis, right on the proposal stage, the day when you get your provisional degree after your defense, it's usually 4 to 5 year period. It seems a great time period, so I can assure you one thing: if you're in the flow, don't go out of the flow. If you're in the flow, this is the time period which you will cherish throughout your lifetime. Once you pass out, once you get your degree, and once you go and work outside in the outside world, I can tell you will be cherishing this time period like never, because the interactions which you have with the peer group. For me, the interaction with the peer group during my PhD is something which I always cherish in my life, because I learned a lot. Not for my subject matter, not for the topic which I have worked on, but also in many other aspects of life or in many other aspects. And I have benefited. In fact, when I have taught my students, I have depended also on those interactions which I had at my IGIDR to teach my students to give examples. So PhD at IGIDR is really fun if you're in the flow, because the interaction that you help you get from your peer group, your juniors, your batchmates, your canteen boys, the library staff, the admin staff, everyone. But you need to be on the flow, you need to be regular. So it's not, you are on your own, so you are your own lord. Keep this thing in mind. And if you are perfect, if you are very much on the flow, if you are really passionate about your work, but at the same time practical, which I explained earlier, you will be through and you will come up with flying colors. So thank you everyone for listening to me about the PhD, life of about a PhD student at IGIDR, and I hope that you will definitely benefit from it, and it will also make me more happy if you benefit, and I will be more than eager to help you out in your queries. Thank you once again.